Hey everyone, good to see you all again. I hope you're all doing well, and it is good to be back. So as I'm sure you're all aware, on the 26th of June, Fire Emblem Three Hopes was officially released worldwide, and now we've all had over a month to play it, experience it, and well, this, that, and the other. So I'm coming to you today with this sort of unscripted video, so sorry if it sounds a bit jumbled compared to what I used to do. Just going over my current thoughts of the game, because if I was going to wait until I'd beaten everything, we'd be waiting ages for that, and I'd rather give you at least some idea of how I feel right at the moment. So once again, this video is a bit unscripted, not as tightly constructed as my usual stuff, but I hope that you enjoy it regardless. And yeah, so anyway, so as for my current progress on the game, I just yesterday beat Scarlet Blaze good ending. I got the bad ending beforehand, but then now I went and got the good ending. Luckily I saved at the bit where you're supposed to recruit Violet and Geralt, so it didn't take too long. Currently on my Twitch page, which you can link in the description, we are streaming the Golden Deer pathway, Verdant Wildfire, I think it's called. Yeah, so we're streaming that. We're still quite early in. We've only just very much started the time skip part of the game, so we're on chapter 5, I believe, or 6, one of the two. I can't keep track. So yeah, so that's where we are there. And that's for Azure Gleam. I did all the stuff up to where the demo stopped, and I haven't done any further of that. So I've got that much to do in my spare time, but I want to take a break from Free House, because even though it's not as long as Free Houses, that game is a doozy. God, you can never escape Fodland, I swear. I've been playing Free Houses for over 3 years now. I'm still streaming it. Oh God, I'm never going to escape it. Then again, with Dorothea around, I don't really want to. So anyway, so I'm just going to give you overall impressions of what I thought of the game, just cover the various aspects. Not in the full detail. Once I beat the game, I will be doing like a proper video going into it. Very similar to what I did with the first Warriors video, where, well, not with max HP, so not sort of review like that. The one I did recently was ranking all the cast, because that's the one thing we'll get into later. Free Hopes does really, really, really damn well. It's the character writing. But anyway, so basically, when the game was announced, it was quite the thing. It's like, okay, we're getting another Warrior spin-off, but this time we're focusing on Fodland specifically, just Free Houses. So it looked cool, it was interesting. People were losing their shit over the designs, like the new character designs, and I don't blame them. Oh my God, fucking Annette and Petra and Marianne looks so good. But yeah, so that was interesting leading up to the release and stuff like that. And then the demo came out. Now, I played the demo, I actually streamed the demo on Twitch. The demo was really interesting because a lot of people's expectations of the game skyrocketed because of the demo. Because going in, it was still a Warriors game and the gameplay was what you were used to, but the story, that's what really, really caught people's eye, because I remember people were tweeting about it like crazy. Because this game's narrative, it's a mixed bag in terms of quality. Because early on, it's really interesting because with each house, for one thing, you're not playing as Byleth, you're playing as Shez, and this time they actually give Byleth more of a distinct personality, where she's a lot more cold and different, but very daunting and intimidating. Kind of like, because early on, because she's like a rival figure, it's like, how in a lot of just anime and like Bleach, for example, Bakuya, where it's like they're cold, they're indifferent, but they will wipe the floor with you, and there are a goal for you to achieve. That's kind of like the Shez and Byleth dynamic, which I think is quite cool. And basically Shez's mission is to become stronger and eventually beat them. And then you join with each of the houses and you choose whichever one you want to go with. So the real bit that got people interested is the fact that you, Edelgard, regardless of pathway, you find Monica, who is been taken hostage by those who sliver, and you straight up and you expose them really early on, because you fight Kronya really early. And then from there, each house does its own thing. Edelgard outwardly, not only does she take down Ferdinand's dad, but she also outs Lord Arundel and takes the fight to those who sliver, at least in the beginning. Dimitri has to deal with his uncle and Cornelia, and Claude has to deal with his brother and the Almirans. Now, this is what captivated a lot of people. It's like, okay, these new story threads, we're expanding on stuff that was kind of very brushed over in Free Houses. This was really, really cool, because, they gave more depth to those who sliver, with the fact that Shez and Arthur are tied to them. The fact that we go a bit more into Almira and Claude's family, and even Dimitri's uncle, and seeing more of Cornelia's manipulation. That was really, really interesting stuff. It's like, okay, we're going in a new direction. And that's how far the demo got. So once you got up to that bit, there wasn't much else until you got the full game. And then the full game came out. So this bit's going to focus primarily on the story. Well, Scarlet Blaze specifically, that's all I can really cover. Free Hopes kind of shot itself in the foot. in the sense that it peaked too early, because all this stuff leading, like when you with the pre-time skip and so on, is so interesting. You know, I really like Edelgard, you know, going after those who slip. You can see the change in her character dynamic. It's a bit more interesting to see this new direction where, you know, her goals are the same, but it's a different way of going about things, because Byleth isn't a factor of the church anymore. And now that she's outed those who sliver, it's like a giant weight has been lifted off her shoulders, because she doesn't need them now that, you know, the circumstances are different. So that's really cool. But then obviously it gets back on track to the typical, you know, defeat the church, unite Fodland, break the current foundations that are holding the people back. So it's like, okay, it's typical Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is a little disappointing, especially because they make a really big deal about those who sliver. I can't say for the other pathways, again, I can't comment on those. I can only really comment on Scarlet Blaze, but I've heard it's similar issues across the board, where it's, they make a big deal about, well, for Scarlet Blaze, they make a real big deal about those who sliver, but then it's very much brushed to the side, only occasionally popping up, like, towards the very end, and even then, it's very surface level stuff, which is, again, disappointing, considering Shez is tied to those who sliver, and, you know, they're the most interesting part of this pathway, specifically. So, it's because when you play through, Scarlet Blaze, it's very much just playing through Three Houses again. Just like the only thing is that there's so much focus on the Alliance, like dealing with the Alliance, which I'll get into that later with one of the biggest issues this game has. And because of that, it just feels like we're playing Three Houses again. But it's what I will like is I do like the fact that you really get an idea of how the war dynamic flows. Like, again, you got to there's a lot more strategy involved. There's a lot more dealing with all the different incidents, and how you can see it's really wearing the army thin and this, that, and the other. I appreciate that, but generally speaking, the narrative isn't as gripping because we're going through the same beats as before, just focusing on different aspects. Granted, we've got new characters, we've got a new perspective, which is cool. But a lot of the stuff that should have been focused on is brushed to the side, and a lot of the stuff that is given the focus we've already done. So it feels a little disappointing in that regard. It's overall solid, it gets the job done, and the interesting stuff is really good. I just wish there was more of it. You know, I wish that they focused their efforts on the aspects of Fodland that were not given enough limelight in the original Three Houses, rather than doing stuff we've already done before. But that being said, it's still, I want to get this out there, should have said at the beginning. The Fire Emblem Three Hopes is a very, very good game. I'd say it's slightly better than the original Fire Emblem Warriors for different reasons, but it is, you know, overall the narrative is interesting and the character writing is extremely good. So that's another aspect I think I'll talk about right now, is the character writing. The characters in Three Hopes, I find, again, I've only can really talk about the Golden Deer, because you get a lot of them in Scarlet Blaze. Not all, you don't get Claude and Hilda, but you get the rest. And obviously the Black Eagles. I can only really comment on two of the blue lines. You only get Mercedes and Ash. The character writing is really good because they're either, bearing in mind, I think Fire Emblem Three Houses had the best cast in Fire Emblem, so they're either just as good or better than how they're written in Three Houses, and that's fantastic. Because with different perspectives and the fact that they never had like the Garrick Marx stuff, so there's a lot more, well, especially you can see in the story, there's a lot more internal with the nobles, especially internal conflict within their household, because like Ferdinand's got his shit to deal with. You know, oh my god, he's really good in this game. They really humble him, and it's really, really like moving to see what he goes through and just the type of character he is. Linhardt and Caspar, they're about the same, but with their dads involved, it's a bit more interesting. Like Ignatz, I really quite like, because now he's got to deal with, the fact that he did become a knight and he works for Lorenz. Poor dude. And then Marianne talking about the stuff she's got to do with her adoptive father. Obviously, you've got I haven't seen him yet, but Holst is a lot more involved, and obviously you've got his dynamic with Hilda and Balthus. Yeah, so again, there's a lot more there. Like, there's a lot more to do with the character relations they have on a wider scale, and I really, really like that. And I think they just generally got the character writing down. Their personalities are still as solid as ever. I like the idea they had with their character development in regards to, well, most of them, where it's because obviously it's a 2-year time skip, not 5 years. Like, some characters, they're not fully come into where they end up in Three Houses, but they're on their journey there. You see that most with Marianne and Bernadetta, where they're not quite at the level where they've come to terms with themselves, but they're definitely making great strides, but they're still held back a little bit. And then you've got other characters like again, Ferdinand, where he's become a lot more humbled, then Edelgard, who's a lot more remorseful because of what's happened with those who Sliver being gone, and just other stuff too. This game also has a number of, I wouldn't say, well, it has some OCs, otherwise it's just like characters that are now present that were otherwise pushed aside. Count Burgley's, Linhart's dad, Bernadetta's dad. Count Burgley's I like, and I like Linhart's dad. Obviously, Bernadetta's dad is a piece of shit, but I didn't expect him to be so cowardly. I thought he'd be one of those really slimy people, but he's an absolute, like, pathetic sap, which just makes, beating the shit out of him whenever possible all the more gratifying. But yeah, generally speaking, the character writing is really, really good, and something I've got to give major props for is the supports they did, specifically because obviously there's still some characters that can't support with one another, but generally speaking, they gave characters who didn't get to support in Free Houses, the chance to support one another, and it's a lot of ones that I noticed many fans were really interested in seeing. For example, we got a Yuri and Ash support because they have history regarding Leonardo and their houses. We got a Marianne and Bernadetta support, which is honest to God one of the sweetest, most adorable, heartwarming supports in the whole game. We even have a Lysithia Hubert support. We have a Shamira and Happy support. We have a Balthus and Edelgard support, so imagine how that goes. Yeah, I just really like the fact that we've got more coverage now, and a lot of them are the ones that we really did want to see from these characters, so that's really, really good. Props to the devs for doing so. And as far as the OCs go, the only real OCs are Arvel and Shez. Speaking about it, it's also nice to see, obviously, Monica's now present in the story, which is cool because it's nice to know, because now we know that with those who Sliver, because for the longest time, I didn't know whether they literally, they just skin graft themselves onto the people, or whether they literally done some magic to fuse themselves with the bodies of the people they kidnapped. But no, they literally they kidnapped them, use some magic to learn how to look like them, and then dispose of them. Which, that means? That means that before Cornelia was taken over, there was a woman who looked just like her, giant rack and all, and apparently, according to Sylvain the Thing, she used to be, really, really lovely. Jesus Christ. I didn't know, a woman like that existing in the kingdom? God damn! But, yeah, so, having Monica here is really interesting, and it makes her story in Free Houses all the more tragic, especially with Balthus's paralogue and the fact that, her father lost himself trying to find her, knowing that, in the original timeline, she got offed. Yeesh. But Shez is a pretty cool character. Not my favorite avatar. I'd say she's in the middle. I don't like her as much as, whichever, as Byleth and Robin, but more than Chris and Corin. Shez is quite cool, very laid back, very cool, very easygoing and likable character. Shez is very easy to like, and I think that's a really good aspect about them. They have some depth. They go into the fact that where they were raised, the stuff with their mum, and this, that, and the other. Then they're very just easygoing people, easy to talk to. They're not overly deep, I would say. It's not like with Byleth, where some of the connections get really, really emotional. Generally speaking, the Shez supports are just kind of cool, and the stuff with Arvel's interesting too. She's also got a pretty decent motive regarding wanting to become stronger, learn the truth about herself, this, that, and the other. And Shez, I like Shez. She's a very likable character. Not too deep, not too complex, but definitely likable. And I think that's a point that Shez really has going in his or her favor. I say her because I use female Shez initially. I just prefer the design. But yeah, so overall, I think Free Hopes, in terms of the writing, story writing is okay. Has some really great plot elements, but they don't flesh them out enough. And character writing is just as strong, if not better, than before. So, well done on that front. Okay, so with story and writing out of the way, now we can focus on all the other aspects of the game. So first and foremost, we want to talk about graphics and sound. So graphically speaking, this game does look, I wouldn't say a lot, but it looks better than Free Houses because there's a better lighting engine, it's much more colorful, character models are sharper, and just overall the presentation is stronger. That being said, this game has some nasty frame rate issues. Not that it's not 60 FPS and stuff like that, because I'm not one of those people where it has to be 60. I like 60, but it doesn't have to be 60 all the time. That being said, I like consistent frame rates, and this game's frame rate dips a lot. Ironically, it dips in the real-time cutscenes the most, not even when the gameplay's on screen, which I find really, really odd. I can understand dipping when there's so much going on, but to just dip the frame rate during cutscenes feels weird, really, really, really weird. But So it looks nice, it just could use a bit more optimization. And as for the sound, the voice acting's still on point as ever. It's absolutely fantastic. And, as far as the music goes, for me it's hard to say because usually, obviously, Warriors games have really good remixes, and from the few bits I have been able to hear clearly, it sounds fantastic. But because it's a Warriors game, there's so much screaming and just slashing going on, and there's so much dialogue going on between the characters issuing orders, it's really hard to hear what's actually being said. So I can listen to this, I'll probably listen to the soundtrack in its own time, but it's good. It's just a case that I can't really fully appreciate it because there's just so much noise going on. Now, as for the game itself, well, I'm very, very glad that this game is taking the approach that a lot of Warriors crossovers have been doing recently. I don't know where it started, but it was most noticeable with Persona 5 Strikers, where it's not just a Dynasty Warriors game with character skins. They take a lot of mechanics from the game they were based on and implement them into Warriors style. Age of Calamity does it too. This game does that really, 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 really well. It's got the weapon triangle systems back and stuff like that. We've got combat arts, which are a lot of fun, and should be, again, that's something I learned later on, so you should really spam them as much as you can because they're extremely powerful and they level up too. The skill system, I love the skill system in this game, not only because from all the different classes you can customize your skills and there's a lot more replay value there, but also, and I love this detail, is the fact that each character can learn some specific skills for certain classes, so it's not all copy-paste across the board. For example, I noticed this a lot with the mages. When you max out like either Warlock, Bishop, or Gremory, they'll get a certain elemental assist. For example, Mercedes will get Light Assist, Lysithea will get Dark Assist, I think Dorothea gets Lightning Assist, and I can't remember, and Marianne gets Ice Assist, so they all get different assist spells that go better with like their personal abilities. And I really like that you can customize that, you can experiment, get different combat arts, and just go really nuts with your characters. And thankfully, because it's relatively easy to max out like everything that's not a masterclass takes quite a while, but everything else is quite easy to max out and just get the skills for. There's a lot you can do there, and it's very fun to mess around and experiment with. It's really, really cool. On top of that, the game also gives everyone a personal ability, or a couple of them, and those are really, really good too, because not only do they help the characters feel more distinct, but in certain maps or in certain situations they can prove extremely useful. Like, off the top of my head, Ferdinand's one, where he like goes at double speed after a number of hits, is really cool. Shez gets like an additional sword, like energy swing. Lorenz has this really cool like rose petal shield, which can also be used as a tornado. Marianne has one where she just like has casual ice AoEs going off. It's really, really great in that regard, and it allows you to like still have like give each character a unique vibe, even if you have the exact same classes, because some do share similar classes, especially earlier on when they're a lot more limited. So I really, really like that. And as for the class system as a whole, it's pretty good. I remember Max HP tweeted about this, like we had this idea in the original Warriors pitch where the classes have distinguished movesets, but you can just give them to different, and each character looks different, and maybe you give them like a specific skill. This game essentially does that, and there is a pretty decent variety of classes. Once again, the mounted units get it best, because I felt that just the Cavaliers, not only did they control the best, they were the most fun to use. Flying units were a little awkward. Wyvern Lords were better, but Pegasus Knights and Falcon Knights were awkward to control. Magic units were fine, but again, kind of limited in what they can unlock. And other like and the other physical units, unless you're sword, they usually end up mounted anyway. Like if you're going axe, you usually end up as either Wyvern Lord or Great Knight, and aside from Brawler, you just end up as a War Master. But sword was okay too. So yeah, while the classes are cool and pretty fun, the only thing that's kind of upsetting is the fact that they are quite limited in regards to certain allegiances. Like there's no hero class, and I don't know what this game has against the hero class, because not only were they kind of underwhelming in Three Houses, but they're not even present here. There's no like Valkyrie, there's no Darkflyer, there's no War Cleric at the moment. Maybe DLC, but there's none of that, and for some it does feel a bit limiting in that regard. I think Annette's one of the biggest examples, because her Hero's Relic Crusher, you've got to be either like a Brigand or a Great Knight or a Wyvern Lord, but Annette's primarily based on magic, so going War Cleric would be perfect for her, but you can't do so. So that's upsetting. I hope they do add more classes, and for the love of God, put Malignite in the game. Edelgard and Annette would love that. But yeah, so the classes are cool and they are fun to use. The movesets are generally pretty fun. That being said, early on, this game can get kind of a little tedious just because naturally, with like any Warriors game, you don't have the most combos available and you're a bit more limited early on, which is fine. But because getting to the next level with the advanced and the master classes, and considering how some of the early intermediate classes control, it can get pretty tedious to get through all the maps, especially because the maps, the big missions, get really big and they can just be a bit of a hassle. Whereas once you get to some advanced classes and pretty much all the master classes are so much fun to use. Once you get to that bit, the game becomes immensely fun. But before that, it can be a little bit of a hassle, unless you're Shez. Shez is just fun regardless, because Shez moves really quickly, has really great combos and this, that, and the other. Everybody else, eventually it picks up, but generally speaking, it's a bit of a slog early game, which is, which can make the game feel a bit, considering the repetitive nature, can feel a bit tedious. That being said, I do like the way the game is structured, because so what you do is you've got the main goal, where the army's heading, and you've got these small little battles on the field that you can take part in as small little fights, which I like, because not only does it show a sense of progression, but it makes it so that you break up the missions of small 5 to 7 minute missions each time, and because of that, you get that rush of energy, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. Granted, they're not particularly memorable, but it helps to keep you engaged, it helps to keep the flow going. I like that because obviously the Warriors games get criticized for being repetitive, for being tedious, and for being copy-paste. So this structure helps to really streamline things and make the experience a lot more flowing. Not only that, but the ally AI is actually really competent now. We finally got there, because this game really wants you to send units to cover the battlefield. The game throws so much at you, so you've got to really assign units to do stuff, but they will do it. You send someone to go kill this unit, they'll kill them, especially if they've got weapon advantage. So it's nice to know that you don't have to do it all. It is very much you can rely on your infantry to get the job done, which is great. Fuckingly. So I like that. I like that they break things up. I will admit, the game does try to have its cake and eat it too, because there are many times, especially in the big missions, where there's a lot of dialogue going on, and you've got to wait for certain events to occur, and there are even some really interesting bits of character dialogue, but because the game moves so fast and you're doing so much, it gets lost in the sea of just all the fighting and noise, and because of that, there are times where, let's say, you may want to recruit a character or you want to activate something, because you're going so fast, the game isn't ready yet, you may jump the gun, but it's a Warriors game, you're meant to be going this fast, and waiting around just feels wrong. So, the game throws so much at you, but it also tries to, take its time, be steady with the story progression. It's doesn't work like that. They clash really badly. Which goes into, which goes into the biggest issue I have with this. Before we get to that, actually, I also love how the base works. I really like that, because it's something it's small and condensed, but there's stuff to do. I like that you're constantly upgrading it with the materials you get. It gives you a greater sense of progression, helps to really keep you involved, and gives you more to do, more RPG style. I really like that, generally speaking, you just keep upgrading if you go about normally, but you can focus on certain buildings first, and when I play through the Golden Deer route, because I know which facilities I want to go with, I can focus and hone in on that to make my playthrough a bit more different and a bit more effective for how my playstyle works. So I really, really like that in that regard. And yeah, so that stuff is great. So that's really, really cool. And again, I like that, the missions on the map, the overworld stuff, there's you're constantly being rewarded with little things, and they've got those time battles, so you've got to plan out how you want to go, and this, that, and the other. But the biggest issue this game has, which permeates both gameplay and story, is the pacing. Because as I said before, the game starts out slow with the classes and the characters. It's a slog to get through initially. Once you get to advanced classes, it starts getting much better. And once you're at master, absolutely fine, no matter who you're playing as. But initially, it can feel slow, it can feel tedious, and while it's not overly repetitive, it still feels a bit of a slog. And the story is the same problem, where again, they blow their load so early regarding the stuff with the new storylines, but then they go back to normal, and even when they go back to normal, with Scarlet Blade specifically, the Church and the Kingdom are barely an afterthought. You focus so much on the Alliance and I'm just like, it's like, I'm fine with focusing on the lines, but they dedicate so much time to it. It's like, we didn't need to spend this many chapters on the Alliance. Now we've got barely any time to do anything else. So pacing is what really hurts this game from both a story and gameplay structure standpoint. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it does kind of sour the experience. I'm also, I'm aware of like there is New Game Plus content when you can play as like Rhea, Sophis, and Arvel, so that's cool. I'm interested to see what type of DLC they'll do, because Dynasty Warriors games usually always have DLC, especially the recent ones. So I'm wondering if they'll give Ashen Wolves like their own campaign, or brand new house, brand new characters, maybe police more classes. I'm generally interested to see where this is going, but we'll have to wait and see. So I believe that's everything regarding my first initial impressions. This video's not overly long, just to give you an idea of what I think. If there's anything I missed you want to know more about, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, so overall, I really like this game. I love that it definitely felt more like it tried to be more Fire Emblem than just Dynasty Warriors or Fire Emblem Skin. Granted, so if you take elements from this game and elements from the additional Warriors, you put them together, you're looking at probably the best Fire Emblem spin-off ever, and I hope if they make another Warriors game, they do something like that. Like, one that celebrates the whole franchise, but takes a lot of design aspects from Free Hope. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going through the other pathways and stuff like that. The game is a lot of fun. Hopefully New Game Plus will also it will give me even more incentive, because Free House has had a really good New Game Plus. And yeah, so later on I'll be back with a full video to go into like probably ranking all the characters, or just give my full thoughts on the game. I'm still working on the second part of the Citrus video, so you've got that to look forward to. And thank you all for tuning in today for this like kind of new format. I don't know how I'll do this, how often I'll do this, how well it's received. Just because I know that with my line of work and how long the videos take, it can be a while before I get like, can make something if I want to get the full experience. So I feel this initial impression style can help just to keep you all up to date with how I feel generally speaking, and then you've got something to look forward to. So thank you all so much. It's good to be back after my time in the US. I had a wonderful time, by the way. And yeah, so be sure to give this video a like, thumbs up. Please follow me on Twitch and all the other platforms. I look forward to seeing the rest of Free Hopes. Once again, we're streaming it. And of course, I'd like to say an absolute huge thank you to all my patrons. I always love the support. You guys are absolutely incredible. I love you all so much. I did meet some of you in the US, and that was the most amazing time. Seriously, thank you. Just like been helping me all this time. I hope you're all enjoying Free Hopes. And I just, really am grateful for everything you've done. So thank you all so much. And of course, I'd like to say a very special thank you to Wolffox, K-Dog, Lucina21, Degenerate Peach, Chaos Sabereye, Shadow Dragoon, Midnight Castle, Maggie Fall, VC Videos, Jeremy Redinger, Daniel Hodgson, Fahrenheit392, Twisted Scarecrow, Specky X3, Zenny Dragon, and Cameron Reynolds. Thank you all so much, all of you. Mwah. I absolutely love and adore you so much. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful time with Fire Emblem Free Hopes. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.